For well-heeled Americans, there were Packards. Packard. Geez, the name even just sounds rich to me. Oh, how I wish there were still Packards today. One of my favorite cars, second only to the 1938 Buick Century, is the 1947 Packard Clipper. This is a Clipper Deluxe, a sedan, an absolutely stunning car to look at. Bigger than the Buick. It's longer, wider, heavier, taller, in every way bigger than the Buick. And boy, did they ride nice. A friend of mine has a 40 Packard, so I know what they're like to ride in. Packards were wonderful machines. We think today of Lexus and Acura and, Infiniti and even Cadillac as nice cars. No, we've lost touch with what a real nice car is, what a true luxury car is. And you know what? We've also lost touch with what American luxury is. The new Lincolns, the new Cadillacs, they're nice, but they don't reek of Americanism like the Packards did. One day, I'll have one of these. It'll come after the Buick, but I'll have one of these. Now, I have a good buddy, the one with the 40 Packard. He would argue that the pre-war Packards are better than the post-war. Not me. The post-war Packards, the Clippers, the Clipper 8s, the Clipper 8 Deluxe, the Clipper Coupe, they were all gorgeous cars. And one day I'd love to see myself behind the wheel of one of these things. Until then, I'll just have to look at pictures and dream. All right, guys, let's get on with this radio. Time's a-wasting. All right, so let me show you what I do with this here. Now, you purists out there, and I have been advised by those that I take seriously that screw the purists. The purists don't own this radio. This radio, if I were to try and do this the purist way, would never get done. And so let's do this the very best we can. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. So, especially the automotive restorers out there will have fits when they see me do what I'm about to do now. I could scrub this for the rest of my life and never get it clean. That's okay. So what I'm going to do is use a little bit of Simichrome. It's the best stuff I can think of for this particular kind of job. Alright, put the Simichrome on there. Simichrome's expensive, so I want to be careful how much of this stuff I use. Alright, so lay it on there like so. Make sure there's enough distributed. I don't want it to gather in all the holes, but I don't want to be chintzy about it either. Okay, so get the Simichrome on there. This is 4/0 steel wool, non-oiled. This is stuff meant for doing this sort of work or for other work where you don't want oil to be in the picture. Ooh, Simichrome will do nastiness to paint also, so be careful if you get it on paint to get it off, because it's pretty strong stuff. It's a lot like Brasso. When I run out of Simichrome, until I get more of it in, I go get some Brasso. It does the job. It's not quite as good as the Simichrome, but it does the job. Alright, so my whole idea here is lightly. I'm not trying to sand this thing. All I'm trying to do is use the coarseness, the additional coarseness of the steel wool to abrade away the corrosion, and I'm trying to do minimal damage to the surface of the chrome. But remember, this chrome is in pretty rough shape to begin with. If this were new chrome, I wouldn't be doing this. Okay, so I let the Simichrome kind of work a bit because there's chemical action going on too. Usually when I get around this badly corroded stuff, I wind up using a little additional Simichrome. So I don't like to dip the steel wool in this stuff because I might be polishing something that I don't want little fragments of steel wool to be getting on. So this is why I do this. And I'll change fingers too, because I could transfer the steel wool from the chassis into the Simichrome. I'm getting low, so it's time to order. This stuff, man, I'll spend about $35, I think, for this can of Simichrome, but it is good stuff. You pay for quality. You take your time on this, because hurrying this is not productive, because the Simichrome needs time to do its thing anyway. And remember, this is never going to be perfect. I would have had a cow if someone would have tried to do this to my beautiful new old stock bumper that I put on my 57 Beetle when I restored it. That would have given me fits, but that was new chrome. I really don't want to put any paint on the top of this chassis, so I'm going to try beating on this with this Simichrome until I get it the best I can. And you'll wear the steel wool out, especially this really flimsy 4/0 stuff. So you have to change it up now and then. And then I'll wipe most of the Simichrome off with a paper towel, because then I can just throw it away. Look at that awful chrome. That chrome's in terrible shape. Not much I can do about that. I'll do the best I can. There's a little bit of paint that got past the tape on me when I was painting this backside, so I'll have to get that out of there. But it's improving some. After I do all of this, when I get it the best I can, I'll put some wax on there, and I like to use car wax because car wax is good sturdy stuff and it'll do the job I need it to do. This I could scrub for the rest of my life on this little bit of paint that got past the tape, or I could take a little dab of lacquer thinner and maybe that'll take it off. I don't know yet. I just don't want to attack the part that I want to keep the paint. Yeah, it's taking it off a lot faster than the Simichrome will. I'm going to be careful on this because when I first painted that, I wasn't worried about it because I was thinking I was going to paint a border around that transformer, but I don't think I need to now. So I'll go ahead and clean that up with a little lacquer thinner really gently. If I have to touch it up with a brush once I'm done with this, that's fine. It's not the end of the world. That's one of the reasons I like Steel It and paints like it. This isn't Steel It that I used here. I thought I was going to use Steel It, but I ran out of Steel It partway through the job. And so I got some of this, and I showed it to you a little while ago, some of this Rust-Oleum. I was really surprised at how well it works, and I never would have tried it had my machinist friend not recommended it, and he uses it on his stuff. It's funny how some companies will make a product, and they have a self-perceived niche. Like, you know, companies like, I'm not saying Steel It does, but there's an example of the kind of product I'm talking about, where there's a niche, right? There's industry loves it. But that doesn't mean that the ordinary consumer wouldn't love it. But they on purpose will make it difficult to get for the ordinary consumer and therefore keep their prices high, I believe, so that industry winds up paying a higher price and the consumer either can't get it or has to pay a high price also. And I just think that's silly. And I gotta believe that that business model doesn't work that well. I believe that's a narrow way of looking at business, and I don't think that it really serves, in the long run, it can't serve them well. I just can't believe that. But that's my rant for the day. If you haven't used Simichrome, the thing you'll notice about it, and it's the same thing with Brasso, there's a very strong smell, and you either really like the smell or you hate it. When I was in high school, I was in ROTC, which meant that once a week I had to wear a uniform that was laden with brass, and I had to clean that brass every week before I went to school in that uniform. So I grew up smelling, basically my teenage years, smelling Brasso, and it smells similar to Simichrome. And so, to me, it's a pleasant smell. I like it quite a bit. There are those people I've heard, they get all excited about it, exaggerate it, like, oh, it makes my eyes water, it's so awful, it smells through the whole house. Well, it's sometimes a dirty business, and you got to deal with things like strong-smelling chemicals to get things done. We could be like some countries, which I probably shouldn't name, where everything that has any hint of maybe not being the most pleasant thing in the world, or makes one think of environmental hazard, and it gets shut down so you can't use it, and so they go ahead and run themselves out of business or force themselves into accepting inferior quality products so that they can avoid the unpleasantness of nasty smells. Well, the world was built on nasty smells, at least this country was, and I'm proud of it. And I like to think that we're a tougher lot than that, and we can put up with a few nasty smells. And I even think our birds are tougher here, and they can put up with some nasty smells. So I guess that wasn't the end of my rant before. I'll try not to rant anymore now. I'm just passing time as I do this. I'll probably cut most of this out of the video anyway. So it's looking better, guys, looking better. Never going to be perfect. But I'll put some wax on it, and at least it won't make you go, ew, when you open up, when you go and look in the back of this thing and see what you see. I recently repaired a Grundig record player. Well, the lady was really happy with it. The daughter that she gave it to was really happy with it, and now they want the entire console restored. And as a rule, I stay away from German stuff, at least German stuff from the late 50s and onward. Earlier stuff is okay. Because it's poorly built, it's not designed as well for being repaired. They're usually not set up in an organized way. You just sort of a mishmash of things. There's no organization to the way they're set up. And they put a lot of gadgetry on them that isn't needed, like knobs that turn the ferrite rod antenna for optimum tuning. Really? Just put a bigger, better antenna in there, or an antenna that you can reach easily and rotate from the outside without having to have a dial string to turn the dang thing. Well, anyway, so she wants me to work on her German radio. And because they're real happy with the record player, I kind of felt obligated to take the job. I'm not looking forward to it. And every time I touch a Grundig or a Telefunken or any of the other German brands from that period, I wind up hearing that phrase, German engineering, over and over, and it kind of makes me chuckle. I'm sorry if you're in Germany hearing this, but I got to tell you, there's a lot of hype about German engineering, and I'm not exactly impressed with it. I'm just one guy, and I'm an average guy. I'm not that smart. But I know something that's built well when I see it, and I know something that is designed to be repaired when I see it. And so-called German engineered items aren't that way. Now this is coming from a guy who used to collect Volkswagens. I know an awful lot about the old air-cooled Volkswagens. Far superior car and a far superior design and build philosophy than the new crap. Heinrich Nordhoff, as the head of Volkswagen, had an idea to build one model and build it well and only change it when that change actually improves the model. If the Germans had just stuck with that instead of building the crap they're building now, I think that German engineering would have been a well-earned name, would have meant something. But guys like me and guys that are actually in the field having to work on this stuff, the concept of German engineering is a joke. All right, there we go. Now that's as good as I'm going to get this. And so now I am going to put a little bit of wax on it and let it sit for a couple of hours because I want to get a good hard shell on it. It's just like waxing a car, no different. The idea is just to seal it up. Who knows if this thing's going to be around moisture, and even if it's not, the moisture that's in the air will be enough to cause this corrosion to continue. And this wax isn't going to stop it totally, but it will slow it down. And it may slow it down for years, thus achieving the goal I'm trying to achieve. But eventually, sadly, this chassis will succumb to corrosion again unless this waxing and this cleaning is maintained. Now luckily I live in a very dry climate. If this were a Midwestern chassis, I'd be doing a lot more work de-rusting it or de-corroding it, but it's bad enough here in the dry Intermountain region. Alright, so I'm going to let that dry, guys, and I'm going to let it dry for a long time. maybe even overnight. And then I'll polish it off. It's not like a car that's sitting in the sun, so it's going to take some time to dry. And then I'll polish it off. Always close your Simichrome pretty tightly because it dries. There's whatever's in there dries pretty readily. Okay, so my next step is to work on these guys. I'm going to do that off camera because that's going to be boring. I thought you'd want to see a little bit of the process that I'm doing here. Nothing I have done up to this point is anything really surprising to folks. So I don't want to bore you with a lot of over and over and over recapping or over and over sanding a can and then painting it. You all know how to do that. You don't want to watch me do it. Not bad, eh? I think that the owner of this radio will be pretty pleased with this. It isn't brand new, but it sure does shine, and I think it's going to do a real nice job for him. While I was screwing this together, the screwdriver slipped, and so now I've got to repair this. But that won't take much. That'll look fine, and that's not going to be a standout thing. I was able to, as I thought, I was able to keep those screws intact, or those stickers intact. So I think that's they look pretty good. And I kept that sticker intact on that electrolytic capacitor can. So I will go ahead and let me turn this a little bit. Okay, we'll turn the chassis so you can see a little bit of the other side. Unfortunately, this side won't be seen, but when it's in the cabinet, but I still think it's important that it look good. So there you go, guys. That's the amplifier and FMIF for the 1947 Scott 800B. Alright, back to work now. Remember this sticker? Well, I made a pair of them, one for the 1 amp fuse and one for the 3 amp fuse. In a minute I'll show you how it turned out when I applied them. I'm actually pretty happy with it. Okay, there's that chassis with the stickers and the fuse holders in place. And you can see how these work. If you're not familiar with these, they're really simple. You push them in a little bit, and you slide them right out, and they're held in place in a little clip there in the cap. It's a bayonet style. You just push it back in, and there you go. Nothing to it. Stickers look real nice. They look nice and authentic. And I think it's turned out well. So I think I can set this amplifier chassis aside now. One last final airborne look, a little 10,000 foot look, and you get the idea what it looks like. Real nice looking chassis, even with all the repairs and resourceful things that we had to do. I think it's going to work out well. This here, ladies and gentlemen, is the 1947 Packard Clipper Coupe. Wow, what a car. Look at the lines on that thing. They're just gorgeous. That is a beautiful machine. I'll tell you something. Someday, I would love to have this model too. The front grille is a little different. The trim is a little simpler. And it's a little more of a sporty look. Look at the interior. I would like to sit behind that steering wheel. Boy, you look at that thing when you're driving and you know you're driving something. Notice the 3 pedals down there, guys. If you can't handle a manual shift, well then you're sort of stuffed when it comes to driving this old Packard. That's okay. I was well trained in the whole manual shift process. Look at that dash. I'm telling you, and this one here is an unrestored one. That is one heck of a car. And if I understand this correctly, that's on the tree. That's a 3-speed on the tree. Actually, that's my favorite way to drive a stick because it's easiest of all of them. And it's easiest to reach, it's easiest to shift. See the heater there on the right? What a cool machine. Man, even the wheels on this car are special. Look at that. Those white walls are wider than my tires on my Honda are. The whole tire is on my Honda. This is a cool car. I love the Packard logo. I mean, everything about this car is awesome. The detailing, the trim, the shape, the size, everything. Oh well, here I go back to dreaming. So, here we go. I will put that away for the night. And I should have this video up by tomorrow. That'd be Wednesday, January 11th. All right, guys. Thank you. This is Michael from your Western Outpost in Salt Lake City. That's the end of part 3 of this video series on the 800B. That's all for now.